Thank you so much for joining us. This is 10 out of 10, the vodcast that aspires to give you 10 takeaways in just 10 minutes as we talk to key leaders in and around the home furnishings industry. And I'm Mark Schumacher, and this is one of those shows that I'm so looking forward to. And before I introduce my guest, I've got to tell you about our sponsors and thank them. I want to thank Synchrony. I want to thank Fortiva Retail Credit, American First Finance, and Versatile. Tell you what, these all go together really neatly because through the unified platform that Versatile is able to put forward, Synchrony can offer prime promotional offers, then Fortiva second look financing, and then there's payment options from American First Finance. And the whole point of this little waterfall is to get you what you need, and that is a quick yes, either in store and online. So thanks to the sponsors. But my guest today, I want to get right to it, is Ivy Zelman. Ivy is the founder of Zelman and Associates. And Ivy, I'm just going to say to people that you are, I think, seen as perhaps the top expert housing analyst in this country. So I really appreciate you being here because, as we know, as the housing market goes, so goes the furniture industry. So first of all, thank you for being here. I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
And we are going to start the clock, Ivy, with the 10 minutes going here. And I think I just want to dig right into get inside your head a little bit about the things that we should be really paying attention to when it comes to the housing market. Let's start just with this. What are the pressures you're seeing right now that are keeping us from seeing a nice upward spike in existing home sales, et cetera? What are the pressures that you are concerned about most right now?
Well, right now, I think there's a lot of pressure just around consumer confidence. Just this week, we all saw the announcement that Amazon is laying off 30,000 people, followed by UPS laying off 48,000. So I think consumers are just jittery, and certainly buying a home is a significant purchase. That coupled with many homeowners today that own a home, and only about a third of homes are purchased by people that are renters or living with their parents, and let's say in a consolidated household that start to decouple. So if you own a home, 2/3 of the people that own a home, more than 70% are locked in below 5% and love their low cost mortgage, and there's even more than 40% that are locked in below 4%. So that is a consequence of the easy money that happened during COVID, and that's keeping people in their homes longer and disincentivizing them. The other factor to contemplate is that people, if they are in markets, their inventories are not elevated, which we have a real dichotomy. We have markets that are suffering from a lack of inventory. So you have people that say, even if I could sell my house today, where am I going? And then you have a flip side, markets that have significant elevated levels of inventory and prices are under pressure. So a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines and saying, why do I need to step into a falling knife? And we know that was a factor that drove the great financial crisis, is that people were scared, and rightfully so, because home prices were under pressure. So in one case, home prices are rising in markets where inventories are constrained, but where am I going? Because there's no choices. To, I have a plethora of choices, but I'm scared to buy because I don't want to buy at the top. Unless I get a really good deal, I'm just going to wait it out.
It's interesting. All of those pressures you talked about, I think that everybody can relate to one aspect of that. I've got a low interest rate and I'm sitting where I am. But you also, though, talk about, and this is what I want to really get into here, about the overall headwinds that I would suggest are keeping us from any sort of a long-term, really, upward movement of this marketplace. Because it's a lot of it is societal. And you talked about the changing dynamic of really the image of what home ownership is. Would you start there and then we'll dig a little bit deeper?
Yeah, I think that today's prospective buyers in the market are looking at home ownership differently. They're thinking about home ownership as maybe best case can increase, home prices will go up in line with inflation, maybe not even meeting inflation. And therefore, maybe I should be staying in a rental and putting my money in the stock market. We've seen an exponential increase in the number of Gen Z people that are investing in stocks. I think it was something like in the, call it 2000 to 2010 period, 6% of millennials and Gen Z were invested in the stock market, and now it's almost 40%. Whether meme stocks did that, and we got a lot more activity. But when you're a young adult today, many young adults are choosing to delay marriage, delay family formation, and now delay home ownership. In fact, the first-time buyer age is now at 38 years old.
So, I mean, there's no such thing then as a young adult buyer, I mean, of any consequence. That's crazy. So 38, So with that in mind, we have an entire chunk. I mean, you've basically said this is an entire generation that is just not thinking home ownership, home ownership, home ownership like the rest of us may have when we were younger.
Right. I mean, you think about it, the American dream was really what drove so many people post-World War II, the GI Bill, giving people an opportunity to go get the white picket fence, the American dream, their own home. Today, people are frowning upon that. And they're also, really thinking about, do I even want to start a family? I can't afford to start a family. I can barely make ends meet today. Why would I bring, a child into this world? So more people are opting to not have children. Our birth rates in this country are now below replacement of what we need. And we also have young adults that are saying, I'm not going to have a family and I may not even get married and I don't want to be a homeowner today because I'm not going to make any money on that. So we've got some real headwinds that I think are only intensifying when we start to look at the cyclical aspects, whether it's a recession and job losses. It's already, I think those headwinds are both secular and cyclical.
Can I ask you the flip side of that, though? As we talk about those that have low mortgage rates, et cetera, holding onto their homes, there is, at least in a lot of markets, a rising equity that people are enjoying in their homes. Is that one of the little silver linings we can pull from this, from the standpoint that a lot more people have more money to work with or potentially work with?
Absolutely. And I think that in markets, the home equity correlation to, let's say, purchasing of furniture purchases is really, or any big home improvement project, it's the direction of home equity. So let's say I have a lot of home equity and I'm sitting in Naples, which I wish I had equity there. I bought at the top of the market. But let's just say you have equity, but you're reading every day about home prices, are under pressure, and you're watching your neighbors that are selling below where you bought it. You're going to be reluctant to go out and make big purchases or do major home improvement changes to your home. But if home equity is going up, pricing in markets are going higher, you feel house rich. So you'll go out and maybe spend more money. So it's the rate of change of home equity directionally that matters more than just absolute home equity.
And obviously, a lot of people turn that equity into things like furniture purchases or that little renovation that they might want to be thinking about. What about for those that are existing homeowners? How do you feel as far as a headwind is concerned? Other costs are impacting this. When we're talking about the rise in insurance, homeowners insurance, property taxes, things like that. How much of a headwind is that right now?
Well, first, I'd just say that affordability is the most stretched that it's been really since the early 80s, when mortgage rates were in the high double digits and 16, 18%, 30-year fixed rates. So despite mortgage rates now hovering around 6+%, affordability is extremely stretched. When you add on top of that the exponential increase in homeowners insurance in many states throughout the country, more so in the South, Southeast, and add on top of that, escalating property taxes, people can't afford the all-in costs, not even adding all the regular maintenance, et cetera. So I think it's a real challenge. And we even have homeowners that are forced to sell today because they can't pay their property taxes that have gone up significantly, or they can't even get an insurance company to insure them in places like Florida. So it's a major headwind, and I think it's underappreciated.
And also, I've also heard that a lot of builders, as far as the new home starts and things like that, that there are a lot of builders that are quote unquote sitting on permits right now. What's going to get them out of the gates to start actually putting footers in the ground and start the new housing market and give it a little bit of a boost? There's just so many people seemingly on the sidelines.
Well, I might beg to differ there, Mark, because
Okay.
we have we cover the public builders that account for nearly 60% of all of new construction, and they are at record level of spec inventory right now, meaning they've built homes
Okay.
without buyers, and they're having difficulty selling those spec homes. They're even providing mortgage rates for 30 years as low as 3.99 on completed specs, or 4.99 if it's not yet completed. And that's another whole discussion. So I think it's really a buyer's market in
Right.
areas where production builders are very prevalent. So if you go into a market today like Austin, you're going to get a great deal because they're trying to move that inventory and they are motivated sellers. So they're really not sitting on permits. They in fact are waiting for permits because there's so many regulatory impediments and delays at the local market level. I would beg to differ there.
Gotcha. And I'm wondering if maybe that's just market to market, and if I'm people that have a spec inventory. Maybe that's where they are waiting a little bit further. But thank you for the clarification. I'm not suggesting I'm right, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We've got about another minute or so here. Let me ask you this. This has been kind of a bummer of a conversation because we have so many headwinds. Are there some positives you can give us? Can you give us at least a little bit of a few shiny objects here that maybe we should look to as possible scale tippers the other direction?
Well, I think for, the furniture industry, there are opportunities to partner with realtors and builders and differentiate yourselves by creating value for the consumer. And if a consumer is working with a builder, the likelihood is they're going to need furniture. They're going to need to furnish that home. And I know some of the furniture retailers that we do meet with are already doing this. So I think there's an opportunity to offer a discount. If this person buys a home and they come to, Shoemaker Furniture, I'll give them 10% off of everything they buy because they came in a referral from Lennar. That's an opportunity. Or if they're working with a large realtor, as long as they've been pre-approved and they're going to be closing and not get their credit score or anything messed up because they go buy a whole bunch of furnishings, they would also see it as a way to differentiate their realtor franchise by partnering with furniture retailers. So, you got to dig deep in markets that are, where we are today. We're in a slow grind and I don't see us getting out of it. And I think, frankly, not to be total bummer, it could get more challenging if we do start to really feel the pressure from job losses accelerating.
Speaking of digging deeper, I want to do that. And so what I'd like to do, since our 10 minutes is up here on 10 out of 10, is to um, have us go a little bit deeper on this subject matter in 10 more.
Okay.
So we will do that. But for those of you right now, that is 10 out of 10. We'll have more with Ivy on 10 more. But for the moment, we will see you next time.
Thank you.